Hello everyone, this is Rio from Rio Cloud Sync. Today we're going to be going through the use of conditional access policies, where we can utilize conditional access policies to either secure our perimeter, devices and applications alongside identities. Modern infrastructure as well as modern management of cloud services is transitioning as we speak, in terms of where data resides, how we access data, how data is managed, authentication, for example, legacy auth being deprecated and moved into more modern auth protocols such as the use of IAuth 2.0, for example, which obviously coincides with multi-factor authentication. So we need to start looking at securing the likes of our user application and device data as well as authentication. So this is where the likes of conditional access policies come into play. Okay, the use of conditional access policies, you will require a license. With that, it is an Azure Active Directory Premium P1 or P2 license, dependent on the use case scenario for the conditional access policies. With Azure AD P1, you can create everything excluding the likes of user risk and sign-in risk policies. So if you are using the likes of identity protection, and you want to coincide the two alongside conditional access policies, then you will need an Azure Active Directory Premium P2 license. But other than that, you're good to go if you have a premium tier license. That could be standalone, and that could be part of an existing service offering. So, for example, you have a Microsoft 365 E5, which includes the likes of Azure AD P2. Okay, to check what licensing tier you're on, you can access Azure Active Directory. In the overview pane under basic information, you'll see your license here. For this tenant, we are utilizing the likes of Microsoft 365 E5, so we do acquire Azure AD Premium P2 within that ZSKU. So what is conditional access? Conditional access, like I said, is reducing that tenant exposure, making sure you're secure. It brings signals together to make decisions and to force organizational policies. Azure AD conditional access is at the heart of any new identity-driven control plane. Okay, so in essence, high level, it's signal, decision, and then enforcement. So how do we go about empowering the use of conditional access policy? You first need to access Azure Active Directory through the likes of portal.azure.com. Once you're in here, you can then click on the search pane. You can search conditional access. You navigate to conditional access. What it will give you is a nice little overview pane in terms of, okay, any existing conditional access policies in place. If so, when were they created and what's the enforcement type? For example, are they in an active state? Okay, of which that they're being used as we speak. Are they disabled in terms of are they on or off? And are they in a report-only mode? So what is report-only mode? Report-only mode is the status of monitoring the policy, making sure what you set, it's kind of a POC, so a proof of concept, just making sure what you set is correct for your organization and you're not locking out anyone in the interim of making it publicly available. Okay. So what we'll do first, I'm just going to give you a general consensus of the create a new policy, and we'll touch upon the templates. Okay. However, with that being said, down the left hand side, you do have a manage pane. Okay, and just be wary that we have got name locations here. So what is a name location prior to creating a policy? Say, for example, you want to block or whitelist or allow, I should say, an existing IPv4 or IPv6 address. Then by all means, you can create an IP range location of which you can then include that into your conditional access policy to either allow or block the particular location. A use case scenario would be you're office based, you're enforcing MFA for all your users. Okay. However, when users are in the office, you don't want them enforced or having to re-authenticate them through MFA. You can set up the name location and just exclude that name location from the Z policy. If they're outside that location, say at home, for example, then they will have to re-authenticate as and when through MFA. Same thing for countries in terms of geographical region. That could be United Kingdom, for example, India, the US. You can set those geographical regions, and with that, you can utilize them in your your current policies in place. So here you go, you've got the geographical regions listed from A to Z. With that, you just select the particular region. Okay. You do also have IP range locations. You select IP range locations, and you can add the particular IPv4 or IPv6 address range. Sorry. So, only other things to take into consideration is the terms of use. So, terms of use, for example, maybe prior to signing, you want your users to approve the terms of use for your organization in terms of how they access data. If they're allowed to share data outside the organization, you can create a new terms of use. And with that, you can append that terms of use to your either new or existing conditional access policies to display to end users of the system. Okay. Other than that, I'm not going to do much of a deep dive into the left-hand side configuration. We'll go into creating and utilising the policies. So first off, I'll touch with the templates. The templates are currently in public preview. They're a relatively new feature which Microsoft has introduced. With that, this is just a combination of frequently used policies across multiple organizations, popular policies, as well as very useful and indicative policies in terms of securing your estate. The one that's highlighted at the moment is require MFA for all admins. This is very much pushed across customer estates in terms of the distributor level as well as managed service provider levels. We want enforcement of MFA for all our privileged roles. This reduces impact of compromise by 99.9%. And this template, as per the button here to view, you can see here, it's based off zero trust in that instance, which I did cover in the previous video, in which includes all these directory roles, and off the back of that, it's targeting all applications with the enforcement level of required multi-factor authentication. So in a simple workflow diagram, it's targeting all admins, it's excluding remaining users, targeting all these directory roles. With that, if any of those directory roles access any application through the M365 service, they will require multi-factor authentication. Okay. Same thing for block legacy authentication. This is another commonly used one. Okay, so this would be the likes of Exchange Active Sync clients as well as other clients, so anything legacy SMTP auth, IMAP POP, for example, which was also covered in the previous lecture. You can go through here and you can utilize these templated policies if you don't want to either amend your own or create a custom one, for example. Okay. Once you do publish those templated policies, you can make amendments off the back of them. They're not locked down to only that use of the template, but it gives you a good starting point in terms of creating conditional access policies. So when you press create new policy, you give the policy a name. So in this example, it could just be, I don't know. Actually, we'll set one up. So enforce MFA. Okay, we'll enforce MFA across all our user estate. Users. You want to select all users. We can select a specific set of users. This could be B2B users, which was covered in the previous lecture. Directory roles, such as global admin, password admin. Or it could be a standardized user, for example, just someone accessing the tenant with no associated directory roles. Okay. In this instance, we're going to select all users. And you have the option to also exclude. So for example, I don't know, you only want to include, as per the templated one previously, directory roles. You would select obviously say user group directory roles, and then you would exclude all other users. Okay. In this instance, we're going to select all users. We then these are our signals. We then want to target an application. Is this going to be all cloud apps or specific apps? Okay. The issue some admins make in terms of enforcement of MFA through conditional access policies, they will only target, say for example, Office 365 in terms of an application, but you're just leaving yourself open to compromise at that point, because they could either access the Azure Management Portal or some other service within the Microsoft 365 stack. So best advice is to select all apps if you are enforcing MFA, unless obviously you have some sort of enterprise application or some sort of service principal you need to exclude because it's leveraging our older authentication protocols. In this instance, we're going to select all, and then the same principle applies here to exclude. Okay. Signals. Once again, conditions. So what we said so far is we're targeting all users. Whenever those users log into any of the cloud apps, what we're basing it off of? Are we basing it off risk? If so, then we need an Azure AD P2 license as per. If not, P1 will suffice. We've got a P2, so we could utilize that. But in terms of sign-in risk, it ranges from no risk to high. Say, for example, you have identity protection in place, you set up some user risk and sign-in risk policies. A user has flagged off the back of those policies as high risk, and you've set this conditional access policy to base anything off high risk, then enforce this policy, that Z user will then be enforced for MFA or be prompted to authenticate. Okay. You've got device platforms here. So say, for example, you're only enforcing this on users who authenticate through a Windows platform or some sort of Android or OS. You can specify that, and you can also exclude. You've got locations, so referencing back to our name locations, okay? Are we only enforcing this for people inside the office or outside the office, or do we want to block everything else other than the United Kingdom? There's a whole load of use case scenarios here, but that's this section. That's what this is for. And client apps. So you would normally use this pane if you want to block legacy authentication clients, as well as block browser use or kind of the enterprise for apps, so mobile apps and desktop clients. You can utilize this app. Okay. For devices, if you want to go a bit more granular in terms of particular platform of device, i.e. OS or TPM chip, etc., then you can filter for devices. That does take a bit more extensive thinking, but high level, that's what that does. And there is relevant Microsoft documentation which is associated to that current pane. So we went through the kind of the signal and the decision. Okay. Now we're looking at more of the enforcement. So what are we going to do? Okay, in this instance, we're going to select require MFA. Okay, there are a few other options here like require authentication strength. So in terms of MFA, what authentication methods are we using? If we're using the likes of Endpoint Manager in terms of Azure AD Join, in terms of or even BYOD, but through Intune, we can use the likes of compliance policies and make sure our devices are compliant and only enforce this upon non-compliance. Require Azure AD hybrid join devices. So say, for example, you're in a hybrid situation in which you've got Azure AD Connect in place. You may only want this for your hybrid sync devices. Require approved client app. Microsoft do have a list of approved client apps that they do deem to be risk-free. So other than that, everything else will be blocked. Require app protection policies. So that's referring to Windows Information Protection in Endpoint Manager. So once again, if you're using the likes of Intune, and require password change. Okay. You can decipher if you want to use one of these methods or a few, and you can select the couple. You just need to change that tick box exercise down there. Other than that, we've selected require MFA. You then can decipher if you want any session controls. So how many times do you want people to authenticate through MFA? Do you want to assist the browser session in terms of they have to refresh their browser, etc. There's a whole load of use case scenarios enforce app restrictions in terms of copy and pasting, for example. I'll let you test that out. And then it's okay, what we're doing in terms of this policy now, we've got it set up so all users accessing any apps are enforced for MFA. So, okay, just a bulk rollout of MFA. Are we report only in it in terms of are we going to monitor this policy for the time being? Probably the follow-up question is how do I monitor this policy? You would then access Azure Active Directory. You either go to the user or go to the all-up sign-in logs. And within there, you can see when and where a user has authenticated, and within there is an option for the use of report only, and it will give you an indicative if the policy would have been enforced or or if it wouldn't have been enforced at that given time, depending on obviously the signals and enforcement. Put in an on state, so it will be on as per when we press create or save, or off for the time being until we've thoroughly looked at the conditions and enforcement. I have got a policy. I have got a policy tip at the moment at the bottom of the page saying, please be aware we're about to enforce MFA for all users. Please make sure you don't lock yourself out. There may be a use case scenario where, I don't know, maybe we're restricting access to everyone from all services. So we may want to exclude our Break Glass account or whitelist our global admin account, for example. If not, and you want to proceed anyway, you just press proceed anyway and create. Once that policy is created, you then that policy is active and will be in use. Okay. Other than report only, there is a use of testing it without actually putting it in report only. Okay, and we can see if it determines the conditions and enforces the enforcement methods upon a user by utilizing the what if function here. This just simulates a user authenticating to a service for a particular IP address or client app. And with that, it will give you a list of conditional access policies which do apply to that user. Alternatively, you can go to Azure Active Directory. You can click into the users. So, for example, we're Hindle here, sign logs. This is where I said if you put it in report only, you can see. Okay, we can see at the moment it's been authenticated through single factor because I haven't actually created the policy. If you click into one of the sign-in logs, you'll be able to go to report only here. And you'll be able to see if the conditional access was applicable at that given time or not. Okay, well, what do I mean by that? Is if it enforced the enforcement methods we selected earlier, or if not. Okay, and it will give you a reason why. Other than that, this is today's session in terms of conditional access policies. Like I said, these are just high-level snapshots of what each service does, and I tend to update or upload on a regular basis. So thank you.